An old German shepherd somehow found his way to visit his dying adopter at the hospice center. But what happened next will break your heart and restore your faith in the unbreakable bonds between humans and dogs. This is a story about loyalty that transcends time, illness, and even death itself. Nurse Linda Patterson was beginning her evening shift at Serenity Hospice Center in Portland, Oregon, when she noticed something extraordinary happening in the facility's garden courtyard. Through the large windows overlooking the peaceful outdoor space, she observed a magnificent elderly German shepherd sitting perfectly still beneath the old oak tree, his eyes fixed intently on the building as if he was waiting for something or someone specific. Linda, a compassionate woman in her 40s with 20 years of hospice nursing experience, had seen many unusual situations during her career, but the behavior of this particular dog was unlike anything she had witnessed before. The German shepherd appeared to be at least 10 years old, with a distinguished gray muzzle and wise, patient eyes that came with advanced age. His black and tan coat, though showing signs of age, was clean and well-maintained, suggesting he was not a stray but a beloved companion who had somehow found his way to their facility. "Dr. Martinez, you need to see this." Linda called to Dr. Elena Martinez, the hospice medical director, as she approached the window. Martinez, a dedicated physician in her early 50s with graying hair and kind eyes, joined Linda at the observation point and immediately understood why the nurse seemed so intrigued by their unexpected visitor. The dog had positioned himself with a clear view of room 12, where one of their long-term patients, Robert Thompson, was spending what were likely his final days. Robert, a 78-year-old retired mechanic, had been battling pancreatic cancer for 8 months and had chosen to spend his remaining time at the hospice center rather than continuing aggressive treatments that offered little hope. He was a quiet, gentle man who rarely had visitors, having outlived most of his friends and having no immediate family members still living. "How long has he been there?" Dr. Martinez asked, studying the German shepherd's unwavering focus on Robert's room. The dog's posture suggested he had been maintaining his vigil for some time, and his calm, patient demeanor indicated this was not random wandering, but purposeful waiting. "I noticed him about 3 hours ago when I arrived for my shift," Linda replied. "He hasn't moved from that spot, hasn't shown any signs of distress or agitation. It's almost like he knows exactly where he needs to be and is just waiting for the right moment to make his presence known." Dr. Martinez had worked in hospice care long enough to witness many touching reunions between dying patients and their beloved pets. But those visits were typically arranged by family members who brought the animals for final farewells. This situation was different. The dog had apparently found his way to the facility independently, suggesting a level of awareness and determination that was both remarkable and deeply moving. "Let me check Mr. Thompson's file," Dr. Martinez said, though she was fairly certain Robert had never mentioned having a dog. The elderly man's intake information listed no pets, no emergency contacts other than his attorney, and no personal belongings that suggested animal companionship. Yet, the German shepherd's focused attention on room 12 could not be coincidental. As evening shadows began to lengthen across the courtyard, The German Shepherd finally rose from his patient vigil and walked slowly toward the hospice entrance. His movements were deliberate and confident, as if he knew exactly where he was going, and had simply been waiting for the appropriate time to announce his arrival. Linda and Dr. Martinez watched in amazement as the distinguished old dog approached the automatic doors with the dignity and purpose of a long-awaited visitor. The mystery of this remarkable German Shepherd's connection to Robert Thompson was about to unfold, revealing a story of love, loyalty, and the extraordinary bonds that exist between humans and their canine companions. 8 years earlier, Robert Thompson had walked into the Multnomah County Animal Shelter with a broken heart and an empty house that echoed with memories of his recently deceased wife, Margaret. After 45 years of marriage, Robert found himself alone for the first time in his adult life, struggling with grief and the overwhelming silence that had replaced Margaret's laughter and conversation. His daughter Susan, who lived across the country in Boston, had suggested that adopting a companion animal might help ease his loneliness and give him a sense of purpose during his retirement years. The shelter was bustling with activity. That sunny afternoon in March 2016, filled with enthusiastic families looking for puppies and young dogs who would grow up with their children. Robert, however, found himself drawn to the quieter section where older animals waited with patient dignity for someone to give them a second chance. That's where he first encountered Bruno, a 3-year-old German Shepherd who had been surrendered by his previous family due to their inability to manage his size and energy in their small apartment. Bruno had been at the shelter for 6 months, watched as countless potential adopters passed by his kennel in favor of smaller, younger, or more traditionally appealing dogs. His intelligent dark eyes held a sadness that Robert immediately recognized, the look of someone who had lost everything they once knew and trusted. When their eyes met through the chain-link fencing, both man and dog seemed to understand that they needed each other in ways that transcended conventional pet adoption. "That's Bruno," explained Sarah Chin, the shelter's adoption coordinator, a compassionate young woman who had developed a special affection for the overlooked German Shepherd. "He's one of our longest residents. Bruno is incredibly well-trained, gentle with people, and loyal beyond measure, but most families are looking for puppies or smaller dogs. He's been waiting so patiently for the right person to see what a special companion he could be." Robert spent the next hour sitting quietly outside Bruno's kennel, talking softly about Margaret, his empty house, and his hope that they might be able to help each other heal from their respective losses. Bruno listened with the attentiveness that German Shepherds are famous for, occasionally placing his nose against the fence when Robert's voice wavered with emotion. The connection between them was immediate and profound, built on mutual understanding of loss and the hope for companionship. The adoption process took 2 weeks to complete, during which Robert visited Bruno daily, bringing treats and spending time helping the dog learn to trust again. Sarah Chin was amazed by the transformation she witnessed in both man and dog as their bond deepened. Bruno's tail began to wag when he heard Robert's voice in the distance, and Robert's entire demeanor brightened during his visits to the shelter. When Robert finally brought Bruno home, the house that had felt like a tomb suddenly came alive again. Bruno's presence filled the silence with the soft sounds of breathing, the gentle click of nails on hardwood floors, and the comforting routine of caring for another living being. Robert found purpose in their daily walks, meal times, and the simple pleasure of having someone who was genuinely excited to see him when he returned from errands. For 8 wonderful years, Robert and Bruno had been inseparable companions. They had traveled together, weathered Robert's minor health scares, and created a routine that provided structure and meaning to both their lives. Bruno had been Robert's constant companion through everything, which made his mysterious appearance at the hospice center all the more remarkable and heartbreaking, as it suggested the loyal dog somehow understood that their time together was coming to an end. As Bruno approached the hospice entrance with determined steps, Dr. Martinez and Nurse Linda quickly realized they needed to understand how this remarkable dog had found his way to their facility. Quick call to Robert's emergency contact, his attorney, David Walsh, revealed the heartbreaking circumstances that had led to Bruno's mysterious appearance at Serenity Hospice Center. Robert had to surrender Bruno to the Oregon Humane Society 3 weeks ago, Attorney Walsh explained over the phone, his voice heavy with emotion. It was one of the most difficult decisions he's ever had to make. Robert's cancer had progressed to the point where he could no longer provide proper care for Bruno, and he was preparing to enter hospice care. He was devastated about giving up his companion, but he wanted to ensure Bruno would find a good home while he was still young enough to adapt to a new family. The revelation sent chills through Dr. Martinez as she realized the full scope of what Bruno had accomplished. The Oregon Humane Society was located over 15 miles away from the hospice center, across busy city streets, through multiple neighborhoods, and over the Willamette River. For an elderly dog to navigate such a complex urban landscape and find his way to the specific facility where his beloved human was dying was nothing short of miraculous. We need to contact the Humane Society immediately, Dr. Martinez told Linda as they watched Bruno sit patiently by the entrance doors. They must be searching for him, and we need to understand exactly when and how he disappeared. The call to the Humane Society revealed even more astonishing details about Bruno's journey. Shelter director Michael Torres explained that Bruno had been adopted by a loving family just 5 days earlier, but had escaped from their fenced yard the previous evening. The new family is heartbroken, Torres said. They called us immediately when they discovered Bruno was missing. We've been searching the entire northwest Portland area for him. How he ended up at your facility is beyond comprehension. Dr. Martinez found herself facing an unprecedented ethical dilemma. Bruno clearly belonged to his new adoptive family, who were undoubtedly worried sick about their missing dog. However, the German Shepherd had made an incredible journey to find Robert during what appeared to be his final days, suggesting a level of emotional intelligence and loyalty that demanded respect and consideration. Mr. Walsh, does Robert know that Bruno was adopted? Dr. Martinez asked, hoping to understand the full emotional landscape before making any decisions about how to handle the situation. No, and I don't think he should, Walsh replied firmly. Robert specifically asked me not to tell him anything about Bruno's adoption because He didn't want to worry about weather. His dog was happy. He's already carrying so much guilt about having to surrender. Bruno, learning that the dog escaped and is trying to find him would only add to his suffering. As Dr. Martinez processed this information, she watched Bruno through the window. The elderly German shepherd had positioned himself where he could see both the entrance and Robert's room, maintaining a patient vigil that spoke of absolute devotion. His calm demeanor suggested he was not lost or confused, but had arrived exactly where he intended to be. Dr. Martinez, Linda said softly, "I think we need to let Bruno see Robert. Whatever brought him here, whatever impossible journey he made to find his way to us, it seems like Bruno has something important he needs to do." The decision would challenge hospice protocols and create complications with multiple parties. But Dr. Martinez realized she was witnessing something far more significant than a lost pet situation. She was observing the final chapter of an extraordinary love story. Dr. Martinez made the decision that her heart, rather than protocol, demanded. After contacting both the new adoptive family and the Oregon Humane Society to explain the extraordinary circumstances, she received unexpected support for allowing Bruno to spend time with Robert. The adoptive family, Tom and Carol Morrison, were moved to tears when they learned about Bruno's incredible journey and immediately insisted that the dog should be allowed to complete whatever mission had driven him to find his former companion. "We can't imagine what Bruno must have sensed or understood to make such a journey," Carol Morrison said through tears during their phone conversation. "If he needs to be with Robert right now, then that's where he belongs. We'll be here when he's ready to come home to us." Nurse Linda carefully opened the door to Robert's room, where the elderly man was sleeping peacefully under the influence of pain medication that had kept him comfortable, but largely unconscious for the past 2 days. Bruno entered with reverent quiet, his nails making almost no sound on the polished floor as he approached the bed where his beloved human lay. The moment Bruno's presence registered with Robert was nothing short of magical. Despite the fog of medication and the weakness that had consumed him, Robert's eyes opened and immediately found Bruno's familiar face. The recognition was instant and overwhelming, causing tears to stream down the elderly man's cheeks as he struggled to find his voice. "Bruno. Oh my God, Bruno. How are you? Here?" Robert whispered, his voice barely audible, but filled with wonder and joy. He extended a trembling hand toward his faithful companion, who immediately moved closer to gently rest his head within reach of Robert's touch. The reunion was so tender and emotional that Linda found herself crying as she witnessed the profound bond between man and dog. Bruno seemed to understand instinctively that Robert was fragile and ill. The dog's usual enthusiasm was replaced by gentle patience as he positioned himself beside the bed, allowing Robert to stroke his head and ears with whatever strength he could muster. Bruno's tail wagged slowly, and he made soft whimpering sounds that seemed to communicate both joy at their reunion and concern for Robert's condition. "I'm so sorry I had to leave you, boy," Robert whispered, continuing to pet Bruno with shaking hands. "I wanted to keep you with me forever, but I couldn't take care of you anymore. Hope you can forgive me." The guilt and sadness that had tormented Robert during his final weeks seemed to lift slightly, as Bruno nuzzled closer, offering forgiveness and understanding that transcended human language. Dr. Martinez observed the interaction from the doorway, documenting what she knew would become a legendary story within their hospice community. Robert's vital signs, which had been steadily declining for days, showed remarkable improvement. During Bruno's visit, his heart rate stabilized, his breathing became easier, and his overall demeanor transformed. From resigned acceptance to peaceful contentment, Brun found a wonderful new family, Linda told Robert gently, not wanting him to worry about his dog's future. They love him very much, and they're taking good care of him. He just needed to see you one more time. Robert's smile was the first genuine expression of happiness Linda had seen from him since his arrival at the hospice. He always was too smart for his own good, Robert said softly, continuing to stroke Bruno's graying muzzle. Somehow, he knew I needed to see him again, and he found a way to make it happen. As evening approached, neither Robert nor Bruno showed any signs of wanting to end their reunion, setting the stage for what would become the most touching vigil in the hospice sense history. As night settled over the hospice center, Bruno had taken up a position beside Robert's bed that he clearly had no intention of abandoning. The elderly German shepherd lay on a blanket that Nurse Linda had thoughtfully provided, his head resting on his paws, but his eyes remaining alert and focused on Robert's face. Every breath, every movement, every sound from his beloved human was monitored with the devotion that only a dog could provide. Dr. Martinez had made the unprecedented decision to suspend normal visiting restrictions and allow Bruno to remain overnight. Sometimes medicine is about more than medical protocols, she explained to her staff. What we're witnessing here is healing that goes beyond anything we could provide with medications or procedures. This dog has given Robert something we never could. Peace. Throughout the night, Robert drifted in and out of consciousness, but each time he awakened, his first instinct was to reach for Bruno. The dog seemed to sense these moments of awareness and would immediately lift his head to acknowledge Robert's touch, providing comfort and reassurance that he was not alone. Their communication was wordless but profound, built on 8 years of shared experiences and unconditional love. Tom and Carol Morrison, Bruno's new adoptive family, arrived at the hospice the following morning with supplies for Bruno and hearts full of respect for what they were witnessing. We've only had Bruno for 5 days, but we can see the depth of his bond with Robert, Tom Morrison explained to Dr. Martinez. Carol and I have decided that Bruno should stay here for as long as Robert needs him. This is where he belongs right now. Carol Morrison added, we'll wait for Bruno for as long as it takes. Some things are more important than ownership papers. Their generosity and understanding added another layer of beauty to an already extraordinary story, demonstrating the best of human nature and supporting the profound connection between Robert and his faithful companion. As Robert's condition continued to decline, Bruno's behavior became even more remarkable. The dog seemed to anticipate Robert's needs before the medical staff could recognize them, alerting nurses when Robert was in pain by gently nudging their hands or moving restlessly beside the bed. When Robert's breathing became labored, Bruno would position himself closer, providing the comfort of his warm presence. On the third day of their reunion, Robert experienced a moment of clarity that Dr. Martinez recognized as often occurring near the end of life. With Bruno's head resting on the bed beside him, Robert found the strength to speak more clearly than he had in weeks. "Run, you've been the best friend an old man could ask for," Robert whispered, his voice filled with love and gratitude. "You saved me when Margaret died, and you saved me again by finding your way back to me. I need you to know that letting you go was the hardest thing I've ever done, but I did it because I love you. Now I need you to let me go." Bruno's response was extraordinary. The dog lifted his head and looked directly into Robert's eyes, his tail wagging slowly as if he understood every word. He then gently licked Robert's hand and settled back into his vigilant position, but with a sense of peaceful acceptance that hadn't been present before. Nurse Linda, who had been caring for terminal patients for 2 decades, had never witnessed such profound communication between a human and animal. "It's like they're having a conversation that the rest of us can only partially understand," she told Dr. Martinez. "Bruno is helping Robert prepare for what's coming, and Robert is giving Bruno permission to eventually return to his new life." The 4th morning of Bruno's vigil, Robert Thompson passed away peacefully at dawn with his faithful German shepherd lying beside his bed. Bruno had been awake as if sensing that the moment was approaching and had gently placed his head on Robert's hand during his final breaths.